rooms, but before that we did an exercise of 3 cities and understood a certain character that echoed in terms of courtyards, in terms of big windows, small windows, pillars, in terms of art, craft, which we had to intermingle it into a simple L-shaped building. And we felt that the chaotic road outside would, there would be a certain harmony brought about in the inner courtyard so that the sound from the outside was minimized. So the first exercise that we did here was really understanding the elements of our sustainable past. We had craft and we developed windows which are openings. We also have modern windows today, but it's simple. Aluminium, you kind of simplify it. But at that time, there were certain beliefs and understanding that you wanted to relate your opening to your gods and goddesses, to craft, and to all the skills that people had. So therefore, today, when I see a simple aluminium, it kind of reflects the skills that we have. We want to simplify it to a level where we perhaps don't understand it. It is just given to someone else and constructed. So in other words, sustainability is about relating your interests, your aspirations, or rather the aspirations of the people, to the way you build. So we made an inventory of all the windows, and the challenge was, of course, to design, design details that kind of fitted each window, which was very challenging. So part of the exercise was also to treat it, because a lot of it was perishable, as Professor Tiwari said. A lot of it was being eaten up by termite, a lot of sections were damaged. So we had to treat it by termite, treat it for termite, and repair all these damaged portions. So these pillars, and like in Bakapur, we had a certain feel of the 55 windows. We said, why don't we reflect it in a certain aspect? And once you start really looking at your environment, a lot of clues are already there. You kind of want to relate these little feelings into your architecture. And that's where I feel that sensitivity towards your work comes from. So this was the workshop where a lot of the repair work was happening. And the elements in the room are really salvages of pieces of wood that kind of, were not utilized anywhere. We said, let's use it for the bed, or use it as an element on the table. And suddenly we had a space that was original. That's a space that we're all proud to relate as a Nepali. The reflection of water, the mandala, the stone spouts, is a way that we used our public spaces where people bathed, where people washed their clothes, were really interactive spaces. But this is also a reflection of the quality of space that we had, and we should open our eyes to. This is a typical toilet where all the materials are really local. You have slate on the ground, you have Nepali rice paper on the furniture, you have pine wood, you have terracotta. You have elements that reflect like the little terracotta detail of the serpent in the bathtub. In a certain way, it's an understanding of relating what we had to the present. So therefore, I feel this is a very sustainable project. In the years of conflict we've had in our country, this hotel, after it was built, has never had problems of accommodation. There's always been people who would, like to stay here and spend a few days and have come again and again. So therefore, I would urge all the students, especially here, to open your eyes before you catch the next plane to America or to Australia. There are a lot of potentials here still, we all can still be pioneers in the way we think. And the world would kind of look up to these notions that we have. That kind of brings out our identity. Just changing the landscape up in the mountains. I don't know how many of you have been up to the mountains, but I've been there several times and I really enjoy getting away. There is a different timeline of the way you look at things. You have time to look at things, you have time to breathe, And I feel this is what the West really enjoy. They're so busy with leading a productive life that they don't have a life of their own. And suddenly they trek, catch the fresh air, connect with nature, look at the river, look at trees, look at things clearly, and they become honest. And this is where we should not lose our honesty in looking at things and understanding with a certain clarity. This is the highway of the Lukla area, and I think I've shown these slides many times to the students here, so some of you may have it may be a repeat, but I still would like to say that, when you walk along this trail and, there is fresh air, there's no pollution, there is a distinct feeling of a balance as a human being. And this is where sustainability really at the heart looks at. How do we balance what we build, or should we build with a lesser footprint and allow air, open space, all these natural elements to kind of connect with us as a human being. This is the Thursday Bazaar in Lukla, and these people are from Tibet. They still come and do trade. This was a couple of years back, and I'm not sure if they still do. But it's a very, transport happens through ponies, through horses, through natural means. This is a favorite signage of mine, which I'd like to show over and over again. But for those of you who don't understand Nepali, it really reads that if you throw garbage, you get fined 500 rupees as well as beaten up. And this is the raw language, the raw tendency of the human connection people have towards law and order. And I would like to say that it shouldn't be so basic, but up in the mountains it's still very basic. And that's the charm in a certain context. So the first project we did really was a small little resort from Lukla Airport. It's around 2 hours. It is close to the Dudkoshi River, where this old building, which looks fine from the outside, but in the inside the wood was really perishing, as Professor Tiwari's language. It was really rotting, and there was a lot of water inside. So our thought was really to pull this building down, reuse the stone, reuse all the wood, and to do a little resort that kind of reflected the place. So we had a lot of stone all around, being next to the river, and it was very easy to get stone, and we built this resort all in stone. What is also interesting in this exercise is that, as people evolve, or as people have more money, they would like to copy. When they don't have that, they would try to do something original. And when we tried to do this stone wall for the cafeteria, and the stone, we wanted to leave it natural, there was a lot of people who said that, oh, that is a cheap way of construction. They wanted to cut the stone like a brick. They felt that that was a certain level of richness or wealth and a certain level of stability. But to explain it to them that let's have the stone, maybe in the corners we can use the stone, in a structured manner, but let's have the stone in a little rambling in between. So there's a lot of revolt against that. But we got around to it by saying that, there is a certain aesthetics at the way material is placed that kind of makes a statement in terms of how we produce surfaces. So the final result was in stone. Though we would have loved to use slate, slate was very expensive, and also the problem of water seeping in was something that we experienced in our other projects. So at one end, you would like things to be sustainable by using natural materials. But at the other end, you also need to bring a certain balance that after making an investment, would you like a leaking roof? As much as it is sustainable, or if you don't have a pocket to kind of buy the tiles, would you still have to place tiles? I would rather state that you go in for a solution which is efficient, which is practical, and when you do have your resources, then you can, change the skin of it and make it as natural as you like. So in a way, sustainability is also addressing, your pocket size. I don't think you should go out of your way and take a debt and build something that you cannot manage something that you cannot handle. This is the third project we did. This is from the airport, the thumb that you see there called the Kwangi Fari Peak. It's really behind this. And the view from the side was spectacular. You see the Amadadlam, the Lhotse, Everest. You know, it's all sheer excitement to see the 8,000 meters peak right in front of you. And when we visited this place, you know, we said, how about a little pyramid, how about a little Louvre? And we started with this notion where we convinced our clients with this little model to say that let's reflect a space that is not huge, broken up by these series of cubes, and have a little pyramid that reflects the mountains. So this was the initial renderings, after which the construction began. And the construction process was very interesting in terms of the stone that we brought to site, in terms of the window detailing that we had to do, in terms of water retention, and you know, the way we had to remove water and snow from a building like this. But what is also interesting is you know, the skill that existed in that locality. We had to employ the local people to build these walls. There was a great degree of skill. But what we found out in construction was that a lot of people, you know, take things for granted in your locality. You know, when you're in Kathmandu, you take things for granted that traffic would move like this, you have to walk like this. Up in the mountains, also there was this thing about, you know, certain workforces that were a little lazy. So what we did was we had two sections of people. One were, you know, Indians. We brought from the Tarai area. We gave them, I think, red jackets. And we had the blue jackets who were local workers. And suddenly, when there was competition between, you know, the red jacket and blue jacket, we felt that people got more serious. You know, we felt that the way people worked, they suddenly became conscious that, hey, I mean, you know, Tarai Wata, people coming here and doing better work than us, you know, they suddenly become conscious. And I think it's a time also today for us as Nepalese. We have a lot of Westerner friends. We have, you know, French architects here with us. They would share their experience and tell you what you have, you know, what we don't see. And it kind of maybe brings out that competitive edge to look at the same thing that we have, but understand it in a different way. So the room is very simple, really. It's really got nothing much except a bed and a place, a small table. But then the site is so spectacular. We really don't need to build monuments. You know, we already have our monuments, but it is the way we respond to what we have that both make, I feel, sustainable and sensitive architecture. So this was a poster that we made for the INBAO conference in Delhi. This was the International Network of Traditional Building and New Urbanism. So we put together this poster that kind of spelled out that the mountains are really the spiritual magnets for the adventurer. And if we do not understand the continuity or the context of it, like a lot of places that we have right around us, it would get spoiled very easily. So I would urge, with this symposium, with all the architects in the making, that you are the future of, you know, how a country would really be understood by the world over. So it is, you know, your responsibility to kind of make sure that we have a certain blueprint, that we maintain certain character that we have. Otherwise, it's depleting very fast. This is a small project that I just would like to show, the rock slices in the new embassy that the American embassy that has been built. You know, the American embassy really has three standards the way they build their embassies. They have small, medium, and big, depending on the country that they have. And it's really a prototype that they just come and plonk it and put a lot of security measures and build it. But what was interesting for us was that we were invited to participate in a competition to have a memorial that on Memorial Day, the embassy people would kind of stay in a place and reflect about all the people that had worked for the embassy but lost their lives. So it was the ambassador's pet project. And what we really did was, Nepal is about rocks, about mountains. And we thought that it would be very interesting, instead of making a structure, that kind of had a roof and, a statue or an icon, we thought that it should be as a sculptural element in the garden. And the thought was really, after this little poetry about remembrance, recollection, and respect, to have a structure that kind of, looked like a huge stone, but were really slices. And as you walk around, you see the slices related, a metaphor to memory, that, it is there, but it is not there. So the ambassador really liked the thought of this, and it was our privilege to have it built. So it is next to the flag, and I think this is what humanizes the garden. When we have elements that reflect, our connection with the mountains, with nature, with these cultural elements that we can perform. So sustainability is definitely about identity and the spirit of a place. That's where we differ in terms of materials we use, in the way we live, in the dance that we create, or the music that we have. And sustainability is about learning from the spirit of the place. There are technical issues, there are social issues, there are aesthetic issues, but it's what I feel, if I were to define it, in the past it was about sharing. You shared a courtyard, you shared resources, you shared the way you built. But today, it's kind of got very inhuman. You somewhat lose this sense of sharing. And I think that is definitely one of the challenges we need to ask at a larger level. So I would say sharing with a sense of privacy and an understanding of our interactive common spaces, resting spaces, stone spouts would kind of give rise to spaces and our thoughts that would reflect on the architecture, the way we build. The challenges that we have in sustainability are really about openness. As we build, we have less of openness. The image that we saw earlier, if you look at how Kathmandu was 40, 50 years back and reflect and look at it now, you really see a loss of openness. But if you get out of the valley, you still have that openness. It's still not lost yet. And we still need to relate how we can challenge to retain this openness. So therefore, in modernity is about challenging the openness, how to still maintain that, and the cultural entity that we have are opportunities and inspirations for architects, planners, designers, for the people who think and govern the country. And also, I think with a lot of culture, I feel that we're still locked up in time frame. We still need to remove certain inessentials that we have all around us. There is education, there is hospitals, there is material development. We need to understand and use it in the way we build. So finally, last few slides about sustainable architecture is really about understanding our environment and culture and respecting what we have inherited. It is a question I'd like to throw open to this symposium, that does sustainability really question our identity? We spoke about roofs, we spoke about bricks, we spoke about certain material, but doesn't all these really reflect our identity? And if today you were to be proud of your identity, what do you have? What have you built beyond, the mullahs and beyond these traditional spaces? Are there spaces that we can really be proud of? I think the root question about sustainability would kind of respond and relate, your understanding of material and your understanding of the way you live to the present. A few slides of Manam, a couple of weeks back, when you can see a few Westerners kind of running in this environment, and I can quite understand the high they get, not looking at the mountains, but purely having that oxygen into your lungs and relating it to nature. that is the kind of monuments that we have within us. So as children here and stay and understand, the kind of spaces that we built in the past. So we would like to, like Warriors, we would like to have a facility that is world class, but still maintain the morphology and the character of the space, which is unique. Sustainability, in conclusion, is about environmental harmony, however you want to describe it or look at it. And from this site, we did trek up on a horse up to a lake called Ice Lake. And when you look at, in Buddhism, they say that emptiness, there is a certain connection. When you have a few elements, you have focus. When you have too many elements, there is chaos. So I experienced that focus when I trekked up here and just sat by the lake and read a book, and suddenly felt that there is so much more to Nepal than get into the politics or into the nitty-gritties of life only in Kathmandu. And sustainable, I would like to repeat this, as this is my ending slide, is that sustainable architecture is about the quality of life. With building, it is also about air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and the environment we live in, not just architecture. It is the environment that comes into play. And this symposium about sustainable architecture should be related to environment, and it should also be related